What should the future be of South African teams in the Champions Cup? I was really struck on the last video I did the other day where I was talking about my issues with the format of this competition. I was struck by the number of people commenting, either South African fans who feel a bit apathetic towards the competition, and some were saying maybe we should just get out and focus on the Curry Cup and let those guys in Europe do their thing. And fans of teams in the north saying, yeah, the South African teams need to be ditched. And I couldn't disagree more. I honestly think South African teams are part of the solution to the problems in this competition. They're not part of the problem. And I want to explain my thoughts on this one ahead of a brilliant weekend of Champions Cup knockout games. I mean, if you count the Challenge Cup as well, 16 knockout rugby matches in one weekend. It's a festival of rugby. I mean, make your excuses, cancel all your plans, park your backside on the sofa and just drink it in. I absolutely love this. For all of my issues that I mentioned in the video the other day, this is one of my favourite weekends of rugby and I cannot wait for it. So I'll be covering it right across the weekend on the channel. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a thumbs up. Leave your comment down below. Tell me what you think. I'm gonna give you my thoughts. And as you might have noticed, I'm not in my normal surroundings. I'm in an airport hotel. I'm in a couple of hours going to get on a plane to Los Angeles. So I will have different surroundings again and different time zone to contend with when I'm trying to watch the rugby this coming weekend. But like I say, if you appreciate the content on the channel, then just get stuck in. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by letting a few guys from South Africa who totally understand what this competition is all about. A friend of mine pinged me this video and said, these guys get it. And this is the Box Office, a show which I've actually been a guest on. It still pickles my head that I've sat on that sofa with Scout Burger and Jean de Villiers as a guest when I was in South Africa. That was mad. That actually happened. But here is Scout Burger, who's won the competition twice, Jean de Villiers and Robbie Fleck. These guys just get it.
This is the biggest comp you can win.
Absolutely.
Winning a double is something special, and winning like a Prem, you know, is something because that's your bread and butter. But there's the sexy tournament, which is the Investec Champions Cup that everyone fronts up. Every single international player wants to play that.
The Premiership was very important, but you know, you speak to all the players there. The one competition was the Investec Champions Cup, and that's what everybody wants to win. It's the prestigious competition, and as I say, the history behind it is huge. So that should be the motivation to keep doing well in that competition.
Yeah, it is just such a prestigious competition, and South Africa involved now. I think we need to take it seriously. We need to respect it because it certainly deserves that.
Please go and check out the full Box Office episode. It's a really, really great show, that. And as I say, check out the episode that I featured on as well. But I honestly thought when the Sharks had that run at the end of last season to win the Challenge Cup, I thought that might mark a little bit of a turning point in the mindset of South African teams, players, coaches and fans. Particularly as last year we had at the same time the Bulls deciding to kind of throw the towel in at the quarter-final stage by sending a B team across to play against Northampton. Like I say, this is a complicated, nuanced situation, and I think some of the comments on it have been a bit too simple. Here's one from the last video I did. Comment from Abradi. And thank you, Abradi, for getting stuck in and starting a conversation. And leave your comment down below to keep the conversation going. Abradi says, the drop in interest also comes from the introduction of South African teams into the Champions Cup. The South African teams have diluted the competition. It's simply not logistically possible and they must be kicked out. Now, I would break that apart and go, it is a logistical nightmare for South African teams. I agree. But that doesn't mean we should kick them out. I think that means we should come up with a format and its place in the season that means we're not asking South African teams to do something that is logistically impossible. Another comment here from Alan O'Brien. Thank you, Al. He says, if the participants in the competition don't take it seriously, the fans won't either. I think that's a really important point. Jake White from the Bulls got a load of stick last year for sending a B team across in a quarter-final stage. And I was gutted that it wasn't a full-bore Bulls team that went and tried to win in a quarter-final of a knockout competition as prestigious as the Champions Cup is. It's as big as club rugby gets. It's as close as you get to international rugby in club colours. It is the pinnacle, as the guys earlier mentioned. And also South Africa's got such heritage in this competition. When you look at the players and the involvement they've had, look at that great Toulon team that won it 3 times in a row with Juan Smith and Brian Habana, Dani Rousseau and Bakis Borta. You've got Scout Berger and Scout Brits from that Saracens champions team. Namibian, I know, but Jacques Berger as well. Ask him what the Champions Cup means. His performance in a semi-final against Clermont, one of the great Champions Cup individual performances of all time. That guy was a machine. So, yeah, when the Bulls decided to just throw the towel in, that was a massive disappointment. But you can totally understand why they did. Because what they're being asked logistically to do, oh yeah, just pop over to the other side of the world for a few days, then pop straight back to play another rugby game. I mean, people at the same time complain about the Bulls doing that, and then also complain that players play too much. Player welfare isn't being taken seriously enough. I mean, you can't have it all ways. So, I mean, Eben Etzebeth has talked, though, about the players need to take it really seriously and recognise how important it is, because he's absolutely right. Otherwise, the fans will not follow suit. They will take it from the coaches and the players. And I think there needs to be a kind of mindset shift in that this is the biggest competition you can play. Albeit, what's interesting with the French teams, who it'll be interesting to see what the selection is for the French teams this weekend, but the attitude tends to be from the French teams that have won the top 14 before go big in the Champions Cup. The teams that haven't won the top 14 tend to want to win the top 14 first, and they just think of the Champions Cup as a bit of an afterthought. So that's another element where you have to have a little bit of sympathy for the South African teams. The URC is one that is just bedding in. It's only 4 years in. And since that maiden season, no South African team has won it. And a lot of them are very focused on winning that. And I don't think you can begrudge a team for, if you're put into a position where you have to make hard choices about selection and it's tough to win on both fronts, you can't really have a go at teams for making that tough call in favour of their domestic competition. And a great example of that, Saracens, who've won the Premiership 6 times and the Champions Cup 3 times. They're sending a team without their England internationals to a knockout match. That blows my mind. I don't know what Saracens fans think about it. It's probably a recognition that they're not at the level that they were. They can't maybe win. They don't think they can win the Champions Cup and battle on the Premiership, and they're picking the one that they think they can probably win more so, which is exactly what the Bulls did last year. But it doesn't do anything to help the prestige of this particular competition. The reality is the Heineken Cup days are gone. Those days are in the past, and it's really easy just to look back with rose-tinted glasses at the glory days and say it's not like that now and find some easy thing or person to blame. There's a lot of reasons going into it. But the Heineken Cup days are gone. The reality, well, in fact, let me read this comment from the last video as well. This one from Lee Luco. He says, you can't be mad at South African sides or South African fans, players, clubs, whatever, for not being involved in the Champions Cup. The current format is a mess for them. It's madness. And while this format lives on, I don't see how any South African team can hope to win it. No wonder they're not motivated. And that is exactly to that point. In fact, John Dobson talked about this, didn't he? I mean, just some common sense from John Dobson. Another person that when I was in South Africa, I caught up with and I interviewed him and Branus, Dion Fourie on the channel as well. Another video which if you haven't checked out, if you're just finding me, then please go and check out some of the great stuff that's there in the feed. John Dobson just talks common sense. And he's just said really easy to fix things like have the URC being scheduled so when South African teams come up for Champions Cup matches, you tie it in with away URC games. So they're not having to go back and forth. But the reality is with the format as it currently stands, So in the pool stages where there are 4 games, some English and some French teams, not all of them, just some, have to go and travel to South Africa once. South African teams in the pool stages, out of their 4 games, have to travel to the north twice. And the way that it's structured is they're being asked to do that once in December, where they go from URC, which could be in South Africa, to playing a Champions Cup game in Europe, to going back to South Africa the following weekend and playing another Champions Cup game at home. You cannot expect players to do that. No wonder the Sharks sent a second team away to Leicester Tigers and we were robbed of, Andre Pollard going up against his countrymen. No wonder we were robbed of that opportunity, because it's just asking too much. And then in January, they have to do the same thing again. John Dobson came up with a great idea. Why couldn't it be, seeing as South African teams have to travel north twice, why couldn't both of their away games be in one of those blocks, either in December or in January? And then what you might also be able to do is make sure the week before or the week after, or both, are URC games, which are also in the north. And funnily enough, that's actually the situation that I think the Bulls and the Sharks are in now. They're able to bring their full squads over for this Challenge Cup knockout game because they have Challenge Cup knockout, which they know will be in the north, Challenge Cup maybe a quarter-final, which would also be in the north, and then they have URC games up here as well. And that just is a no-brainer. And here's the thing, is what's really easy to do is just go, get the South African teams in, and then they can just fit in with how we do it. I mean, yeah, okay, but what did you expect was going to happen? Anyone with any common sense could have predicted the way it was going to go. If you're going to bring the South African teams in, do it the right way. Reformat it so it works. And I'll tell you why that's really, really important. Because, those glory days of the Heineken Cup are gone. The Premiership, and it pains me to say it, I'm an Englishman, I'm in England, I love my Premiership club rugby, and the Premiership is very, very competitive and really entertaining. The top-end quality is not there. We do not have teams like the Saracens team in the 2010s, like the teams of Leicester Tigers and Wasps and Northampton that were winning it in the 2000s. You don't have Exeter Chiefs 5 years ago won it. Since then, since that Exeter Chiefs level, the Premiership in quality has dropped right off. Now, you can point to the knockout stages and say, yeah, but there's 5 Premiership teams in the knockout stage, just as many as in the URC. Yeah, but as I've already identified, that's because we've put these South African franchises, who are some of the biggest, most competitive teams in the URC, you've put them in a situation where they have to pick and they're not able to balance. How it's so important that we get the full buy-in from the South African public. For one thing, I'll tell you what, the Heineken Cup glory days are gone. I'll tell you what the Champions Cup has now with the South African teams in. It has some massive brands. Stormers, Sharks, Bulls, Lions. These are big names. You have international superstars. This is how you can promote and sell the game. I want to see a match where Marcus Smith from Harlequins is opposite Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu for the Stormers. That you can sell. That is what gets people interested in rugby. Those are the kind of matchups that we need to see. And if we were seeing that in a knockout game right now, I mean, game on. We're not seeing that. And we've opened up the Champions Cup to this massive TV market, huge rugby mad fan base, and Investec, the sponsors of the Champions Cup, are a South African company with a footprint in the UK and Ireland as well. It's all there. We just need to make it work. And if we can create a season structure, that means that the Bulls can send a heavyweight pack to go and take on the mighty Toulouse, Meafu and Jack Willis. I called him Jacques Willis then, just out of habit. Then those are the games that you want to see. And if they were happening in a knockout game this weekend or next weekend, it would be absolutely dynamite. And whilst the Premiership is recovering, the Premiership salary cap is going up next year, and Bath look like they're primed to potentially be building a squad that could compete in the Premiership and on the European stage. And Bristol, hopefully, with Steve Lansdown's money, can do the same. Whilst the Premiership teams are rebuilding a bit and it's getting back on its feet, and whilst that's happening, we need the South African teams to be able to compete on both fronts. And we're not helping that to happen. And some really simple changes. Joined up thinking, people getting around a table and working it out for the good of everybody is exactly what it needs. At the moment, it is just too predictable. Leinster, are going to go very, very deep in the competition. Toulouse as well. Everyone was saying it's going to be a Toulouse-Leinster final. It's looking like it could end up that way. If there is an upset, it will be because Bordeaux managed to beat Toulouse or Toulon managed to beat Toulouse. But other than that, it's only going one way. And that needs to change. It needs more jeopardy. And as I've said, to summarise my thoughts, I understand the frustration or the apathy from South African fans or other fans towards South African teams. But these South African franchises, these great brands, are part of the solution. They're not part of the problem. Let me know what you think. Enjoy the rugby. I'll be watching it as much as I can. Like I say, I'm going to be 8 hours ahead. So I'll be watching some of the games either very early in the morning or in the middle of the night. So you'll have to excuse bed hair and bags under my eyes. But if you appreciate the content, hit subscribe on the channel. I'll see you on the next one.